But believe me, until you're there, and even Sunday night during the concert, if you want to walk down there and sit on our deck, and I don't mind the concerts. I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying so you get a feel for how the noise comes down through there, and maybe you'll understand what I'm talking about with all this noise, with the bells and stuff. So
Have we looked at the possibility of replacing those bells? I know it's just a panel that slides out of there. What would the cost be to replace that with something? I know they have other options for that panel.
I have not inquired as to what a replacement panel.
Because I don't know if the whole panel would need to be replaced or just that section where the bells are. I mean,
Well, I'd
Just
say-
take the bells off the panel?
I'd say if you look at it, just take the bells off. Because you go up there and look at it, and I really don't think it's gonna be an unpleasant look just to have that panel there with no bells in it. I really don't. You know, I mean, I think it'd be fine. I really do. It's not a hole big enough that anybody's gonna fall through, for God's sake. You know, I mean, there's other holes in the equipment where people can get their arms and stuff stuck in just as well if they do that. I mean, if that's the case. I really don't think it'd be an issue just to remove the bells and leave the panel there. That way it doesn't cost town any extra money. You know, at least try it.
yeah, I'd at least check into the cost though to see.
Well,
just
let me do this. Let me, I'll talk to Cleveland and see what they have to say. And we'll discuss removing the bells, just removing the bells from the panel, removing the dingers, and putting in a whole new panel, and I'll come back with information on that.
All right, that's all I
I
have.
will say
Thank
that
you.
I have gone up there. I actually sat up there one night. I was going to take you up on your offer to deck, and we've already discussed what happened with
Right.
that. But I went up there, and I agree. We had parents actually showing up. I found this amazing, and they're opening up their car doors, and the kids are going out with no supervision, and the parents sit in the car, and most of them are on their cell phone at that point, with their windows up, with the engine running, and it's sort of like they use the park as a babysitting service.
Yeah.
And I saw some of the things that you're talking about. I actually did witness some of the bullying that's going on. And I spoke with one of the residents in town that her son does a anti-bullying program for all the public schools. But there is some issues there. I saw little kids just about get run over. If it was my grandson, you know, I wouldn't do that. Kids coming through with bicycles, actually bicycles up the equipment itself.
Oh, everything.
And if an adult is there, it sort of dissipates for a while, but the adult doesn't stay there for very long when a responsible adult's there.
There have been groups of kids there running adults and their kids off.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
So
you know.
when I got out of my vehicle and walked up, as soon as I walked up, they left.
Of course,
But I knew as soon as I left, they were coming back.
you know, we've hollered at them from down at the house a
Yeah.
couple times when they're really doing something really stupid, and you know what we get. I mean, you can imagine what we get back. So we just quit doing it. It's like, heck with it. So, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
And a couple of issues, if you say something, Mark.
Yeah, I know Mark put the town park on a special watch for the sheriff's department, so even if he's not on duty, they're trying to slip by and check it, but I'm sure it's, you know, when they have the time and availability.
Any other residents' concerns?
No.
All right. Old business, 131 Church Street, appeal of order to remove trees. Frank sent out on July 24th a memo. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to read that. Should have. Frank, you want to?
Yeah, let me, if you turn to tab 7, you'll find a report in there which contains a lot of the same information that was in that memo. Basically, in follow-up to the meeting on the 21st, you reported any actions for 60 days. And during that time, you know, I was asked to gather some more information. So I contacted and had a phone conversation with Beth Saunders, the Forest Service, and she was familiar with the property and the planning. And she reviewed the language in the Natural Resources article relative to roadside tree care. And by definition, these are not roadside trees since they are not in the right of way. So they are not roadside trees. So they're not subject to all the provisions of roadside trees. She did say that the Forest Service does advise folks not to plant trees within 30 feet of an intersection. I went out and I checked the distances just for reference, and they are 18, 27, 37, 47, and 58 feet from the intersection. And since these type of trees won't get very tall, but they will tend to bush out. And just as another bit of information, the no stopping sign that the SHA installed in response to the parking of cars and things like that, that's 44 feet from the intersection. That's measured from the curb line of the intersection. On July 22nd, Andrew Rancliffe, he's a SHA District 7 traffic engineer, was on site. He observed the situation. He agreed that the trees are an obstruction of sight distance. And he noted that although it's possible to pull out in front of the trees, in front of the pole and gain sight distance, the SHA would not put a stop bar out that far. And the criteria is the stop bar has to be 4 feet back from the white line, it's a minimum. And if you put the stop bar back 4 feet from that line, then you would stop in the crosswalk, which then you can't have that. The stop bar has to be behind the crosswalk. You can't prevent use of the crosswalk. So that's, putting a stop bar out in front there would not be something SHA would do. Both SHA and the Forest Service indicate the trees are not under their jurisdiction. The town does have regulating authority by default. It's section 189-4, went over that last time. SHA has established a clear zone where they place the signs when they're stopping. And to maintain the sight distance, you really couldn't have any trees in that area. And that would necessitate removal of 3 trees. If you flip the page, you see I put together a little drawing. It is accurate in terms of distances and measurement, showing where the 3 trees, where the trees are planted, where the utility pole is, where the stop bar is, and all that kind of things. And there's what I call kind of a dash line, which is I call the line of sight. That's if you pull up there in your vehicle and stop, that's about the first place you can see past the corner of the house. And if you look down through the sign, then you can see those first 3 trees would be to the street side of that line of sight. So that's just to show you where everything is in relationship to each other. And then the other pictures you saw before were part of the previous report. And then there's one more picture that shows the vehicle pulled out far enough to see in front of the pole. So you can see how close that is in relationship to the white line. And there you go. So that's other additional information I developed over the time since the hearing on the 21st. And if you have any questions of me, Ms. Donaldson's here this evening. So there you go.
Thank you, Frank. Council?
Just a question on the right of way for my information. The state road right of way is curb to curb?
That's what
Is that
they-
the actual right of way, or is that what they maintain?
I'm not an expert on the right of way for that, but that's what they
Their responsibility.
That's what they reference in their memo back in June.
Similar to on Main Street.
I know they only maintain road, but I thought the right of way was actually wider. But that's another issue.
Yeah, that's what they were, I can only give her what they referenced.
Originally, council had agreed to, 60 days?
Yeah, I made the motion last meeting for 60 days, thinking that it would take a couple weeks to get state roads out, quite honestly. I'm surprised it came out that quick, but that was the reason I made my motion for 60 days. I don't know if Ms. Donaldson has any comments tonight or not.
Ms. Donaldson?
Well, so what do you want me to do? Do you want me to move 3 trees? Is that what it's all about?
If you would remove 3 trees, I think that would be ideal.
Well, if I do, I would ask that I not do it in August when it's so hot and they would probably die. I wait till the leaves fall off the trees. How's that?
I don't know if you want to go by leaves or...
Yeah, I mean, I would have a concern that if it's
They'll come off
something,
the end of September.
if it's a sight distance issue, and we haven't had complaints, I'm inclined to have them move now. I mean, if it's a safety issue, it's a safety issue, and we shouldn't wait until,
Unfortunately, we've got a duty to act and to delay it. We've got a duty to act now, I think.
So is the town gonna move the trees, or am I gonna move the trees? I've had the expense of planting the trees and taking out roots and labor of doing all of this before.
Well, council decides one way or the other, but I don't see us moving the trees, but then everybody else is going to want us to move trees.
That's on your property, and you put the trees in. And if the town took them out, they probably wouldn't be salvaged.
All right.
Any other old business? New business, fiscal year 2015 town-county agreement. We are getting, according to Frank, additional money this year. Briefly, I mean, you want to read all this, that's fine, but the funding grants available to New Windsor will get a grant in the amount of $71,126. The road funds, which is a payment to be made to the county, to town by county, in lieu of state roads aid program, is $1,334, but then we have to pay $1,372 for national pollution discharge elimination systems. And that comes out, the total of all that comes out to $71,088. So it's funding revenue to the town. Do I hear a motion, or do you want to discuss it, or a motion to approve fiscal year 2015 town-county agreement for the town of Windsor?
I make the motion, we move, approve that agreement.
I'll second.
Point of order real quick, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor. I see that animal control is listed on here. Is that a conflict? Do you see that as it being a conflict to be voted on this?
I would think so.
I don't see why we're not pulling money from you guys or vice versa. So I'm
We
coming
just
from
provide,
them.
we
I
just
just wanted
provide
to-
the service.
I just wanted to make that clear because I'm not so sure the director of the Humane Society would say it that way, but I'm comfortable with that answer.
We have a motion by Councilman Paulsgrove, seconded by Councilman Huffman, to approve the fiscal year 2015 town and county agreement. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so carried. St. Paul's Church request to reinstate water sewer connection.
Let me grow that.
You want to go over that first, and then Jim will let you speak?
Okay, as most people are aware, recently the St. Paul's demolished their church office building up here. And going back a little bit, in December of 2012, the church requested and was approved to relinquish its water and sewer connections, thereby not having to pay the ongoing quarterly base charges. You know, that's the town policy, that you pay a base charge for your water and sewer connection when you're not using the facility. The church's demolition permits stipulated that the water and sewer connections were to be properly terminated at the main line. So for water, that meant going out into the street, actually across the street, and digging down to the corporation, to the main, and turn it off at the corporation right on the main. And the reason you do that is because those lines have a tendency to leak, because there's nothing on the other end of them, and water pressure tends to push them off. And then you have a leak at the main, and then we have to go out and turn them off. So that was done, and it's understood, okay, all right, so that's what's stipulated. So now the church has come back and want to avoid that, the cost of having to do that, because that's fairly expensive. You want to get out on the state road. If it was a town road, it might be not so much, but you have to cut a hole, go down to the main, but then where it gets expensive is in the repair patch. You have to go 25 feet each way, full width. So you dig a little hole about this by this, and you have to go
50 by 6.
50 by 8 or something like that to fix it. So the church has asked if they can have their service reinstated, and they've agreed, if they do that, to pay the base charges retroactive to the date that it was they stopped paying them, and that would amount to $1,034. And if they do that, then we would have them properly terminate the lines on their property. And what I would have them do is, on the water line, put in a thrust block up against the water service so it can't move. Basically a thrust block, I'd get them to take a 2x10, two pieces of 2x10 and bury it right in front of it so that it has to push against that as opposed to pushing against the thrust block. The main, the sewer line, you'd have to cut it off on the property line, grout it, cap it, and that will keep water in from flowing, but they can do that on their site. So it's a little bit less involved. So my recommendation is that you care to that allow them to have their service back. It makes sense to me to have a water and sewer service for a lot. It doesn't make sense for it not to, as long as they're willing to repay the base charges, which were essentially deferred starting December 2012. They have their letter attached right behind that, and in which they make an offer to do that.
Jim? State your name and your title, please, sir.
Sure. My name is Jim Talley. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor who's been co-opted by the current pastor of St. Paul to work with trustees as a consultant and actually acting chairperson. And somewhere along the line, somebody told me when you won, sit down and shut up. And I feel like I should do that now because Mr. Schaefer did a pretty good job of making our case for us. And we want to take about a year to pray and contemplate the use of this site, and we want to keep all the options open. And our trustees were unanimous, and our council last night was unanimous in this request. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for record, I am a member at St. Paul United Methodist Church. So there's been discussion back and forth with Jim and myself and other members of the church of options. So I just want to bring that out to the council's attention.
Can I ask questions?
Sure.
You guys help me understand the $1,034. They haven't had service at all. Why would we require them to pay the $1,034?
It's the same as if you went to Florida.
Yeah,
Because
but they actually did disconnect the service.
No, we turned it off. That's your policy. That's the town's policy, that base charges.
It was just turned off, wasn't disconnected. I mean, they,
If the property's vacant, and we.
oh, no, absolutely, I don't.
That's the town policy. So that's where it came from.
So the water was turned off there.
The water was turned off at the valley, yeah. In December of, at the end of December 2012. So that's.
No, I'm fine, I was just trying to.
That's how we did that. That policy, I don't know exactly when we adopted it.
Does that include the base charges for the sewer as well?
Yes.
Comments?
I think it's a reasonable route to follow. Gives them time to think, and it also really is consistent with our policy in regards to turning water off or not turning it off.
Yeah, we need to be consistent.
Frank, is there a time where the installed frost block would become a problem? If this process of doing something with that water takes several years, say,
Hard to say. I'm no expert on this, but I mean, what I'm trying to do is you put this thrust block in front, and then, because every time there's a little bit of pressure move, this line moves just a little bit. You put the thrust block in front of it, you prevent that from moving, and hopefully that works all the way back to the net. But could it push off? Yeah, it could push off any day. And frankly, most of the problems that we've been seeing have been a lot of this happening on the system, deteriorations at what we call a corporation, which is where the water service line attaches to the main. So it's happening pretty frequently in the town. But one of the first water leaks I dealt with here was exactly this situation where the water service was turned off at the valve, left on at the main. We had a big leak, and when we dug it up, it was, had that been turned off by the individual at that time, we wouldn't have to spend $3,000 to dig it up a bit later. So this is one of those things where we'll do what we can do to prevent it from happening, but it may very well still happen.
So my ultimate concern about that is there's not a meter then hooked up
No meter.
to that property. So if, for instance, that did break, we could have a water leak for a substantial amount of time underground, not knowing.
Yeah.
Just a heads up. It's potential issue.
That's been happening anyways.
What's that?
That's been happening anyways in other places.
Let me say this. If the streetscape project goes forward, every one of these water connections will have to be replaced as part of that project. So if it goes forward, you can figure in the next 5 to 6 or whatever years it takes to do that project, this problem will all change.
So you want a motion, or you just go ahead and do it? I don't know whether you really need a motion for it.
I don't know if you need a motion, I just want your concurrence.
Okay.
I think we're in agreement that that's
Yeah.
okay to go.
I'm certainly not in favor of denying a church water.
Not
I'm gonna use it.
Okay, Jim?
Put a good word in for me, I need it.
Any other new business?
We got one more thing, maybe, you have a acceptance of deed of the easement on there? Let's
Oh, okay.
take a second.
I use my own copy, okay.
We have a subdivision. There's a subdivision in the county called the Major Property. It's not a big subdivision, it's just a couple lots. It's out on Wakefield Valley Road, and the town water line crosses that property. And there's an amended plat to enlarge one of those lots that's being processed. When the original subdivision was done, we got an easement over our water line. And now it's being amended, that easement's being extended to the boundary of the new lot line. About 126 feet additional in length. The town attorney has been working with the developer's attorney, and they've got the deed of easement. It's signed by the property owner. We've got the plat and all that. But prior to recordation, there has to be a formal action to accept the deed of easement by the council. So in Michelle's absence, I'm asking you to accept the deed of easement. I have it here if someone really wants to take a look at it. And I have the plat too if you want to take a look at that too. So I'm asking for a formal acceptance of the deed of easement on the Major Property Subdivision amended plat.
I'll make that motion that we accept the deed of easement for the major property.
Any questions or comments? We have a motion by Councilman Knoll, second by Councilman Paulsgrove, to accept the major property, accepting the deed of easement. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments, questions? All right. Announcements? Do you have any announcements? New Windsor Lions Club Blood Drive is next Thursday, the 14th, 2 to 7:30, down the Power Hall. Come on out.
You need appointments for it?
You can go online or just show up.
Okay.
More the merrier. We'll do both arms. Anybody have anything else? I will.
Just real quick, I'd like to see us at least put on the work session, something about a tree ordinance. We need some mechanism to control this, and whether we have to go permit ourselves or something. We've had it 2 or 3 times now. I'd like to see us have a formal policy on street trees. Thank you, that's all.
All right. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second for adjournment. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Okay.